Welcome, entrepreneur movers and shakers. This is Tony DUrso, and you are at the right place. I have a little bit of a new backdrop here. I hope you like it, and just kind of change things up a little bit. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining in with us. Now, today is the day I've been waiting for. What we're going to discuss here is something I have wanted to do throughout my entrepreneurial life. Yeah, it's true, and you're witnessing it. Today is the best time to learn this information. This is the stuff. Now, let me kind of frame it up. As an entrepreneur and business owner, you want the world to know about you. You want the world to know what you have available. You want them to know you've got something to solve their problems or help them with important issues, right? That's why you're in business. And the more people that know about you and what you do, well, that should equate to more income and all the good stuff, right? All right, guys, this is a test. Can you imagine if hundreds of thousands of additional people know about you? Really? Can you imagine if millions of additional people know about you? Now, even if your market is extremely selective, for the most part, the more people that are aware of your business, the better it is. That's the usual norm, though there are some exceptions. And you've heard it said, and you may have cracked some of the code, but I'm sure you're still working on it. You know, here we're at 45 million listens of our show, and I'm still learning myself on how to grow. The internet and social media, they're the tools we use for this. And the key, guys, is knowing how to wield public relations more effectively than ever. The better we can do that, the more we can grow and succeed. All right, guys, get out that pen and paper. Today's interview is a super treat for all of us. We're going to speak with Ericho Yaverbaum, and we're going to discuss and teach you PR for Dummies. And look, I know you're all smart, but we're going to fill in some pieces that maybe you don't know. So don't be offended at the title. And there's a book out on it. We're going to tell you more about it. But before I get caught up on that, I just want to let you know that what we're trying to do here is help you and your friends move on your journey to success. We want to help you get very successful. We're going to help turn you into an elite entrepreneur. Get ready to meet Eric. He's a communications, media, and public relations expert for over 43 years. He's the best-selling author of Public Relations for Dummies. He's a best-selling author of 6 other titles, including Leadership Secrets of the World's Most Successful CEOs, which has over 1 million copies sold, guys. This is great. And he's regularly in the press or the nightly news. Tune in. You're going to see him somewhere. I think that says enough. Let's get into it. I'm going to bring him on, and let's see if we can do that. Hi, Eric. Welcome to the Tony DUrso Show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan. Thank you.
Oh, and vice versa. I'm so impressed at what you've done in the world of communications and PR and everything. And what I love it.
You and my mother, that's 2. I'm glad to hear.
Oh, we're going to get on like a house on fire. I love it. I'm Italian. You're from New York. Hey, this is great. Well, we're going to learn some PR for dummies and also PR for smart people, if you don't mind my little Italian humor. Eric, perhaps, I know it's a long and varied career, but could you tell us, how did it all start for you? What's your backstory?
Yeah, I started my career as a kid. While I was in college, ended up growing a traditional PR agency that I started my sophomore year while I was in university in Washington, D.C. Grew to be one of the most well-regarded, highly respected, one of the best places, if you believe the press, I do, one of the best places to work in America. I sold to Wall Street 20 years, after I started it. I went to work for Wall Street. Found out, I thought, I sold my agency. Now I have money. How great will this be? Not so great. Be careful what you wish for. I found out that I don't, I like being the boss. I like working for myself, and I don't like all the principles of Wall Street. I stuck around for 15 months until I couldn't take it anymore. Again, be careful what you wish for. It's not all about money. You got to love what you do. And I found that out, I'd say the hard way, but I found that out the hard way with money in my pocket. I ended up I did some work for the transition team between Bush and Obama at the White House. I stuck around for a year while I was starting the agency that I run now. and the agency that I run now, I've been running for 17 years. I also write books. As you mentioned, I'm working on my 8th right now. It's the 3rd edition of PR for Dummies. We can talk about that a little bit later as we get into the show. And after I left the White House, I was a pundit on national television I went through 2 presidential election cycles, and people seemed to believe that I knew what I was talking about politics, and I was just guessing like everybody else.
That's amazing that people seem to believe you.
Well, amazing indeed.
And I don't mean it in a bad way. It's actually quite something when you've been in the press
No,
for
I've been
so
able
long.
to,
I mean, you're a figure out there, a figurehead.
well, if you believe everything you read in the press. But, I mean, that is what I do for a living. I generate media exposure for my clients. It's around digital, social, and, real world, the world that I grew up in, television, radio, talk shows, newspapers and magazines. And, I'm a huge believer in mentors. And, when I was a kid, my first mentor was Henry Kissinger. And Kissinger told me that he used to go before the White House press corps while the press was going after a sitting president, which then it never happened. It was unheard of. They let Kennedy do whatever he wanted without a mention. Nixon was a whole different story. So Kissinger was a great at first mentor of mine. And, I've had a dozen historical figures who have been mentors, who I've learned from, who I've worked with. And Kissinger told me he would go out before the White House press corps and say, does anybody have any questions for the answers I'm already giving? And that's the art of messaging. And I learned that from Henry Kissinger. And I always was skeptical, like, did he really do that? Did he actually have the nerve, the audacity to go out in front of the brightest press in the world at the time, covering the White House, and say something like that? And about 20 years ago, I was having dinner with Bob Woodward, and I said, Bob, you were there. Did Kissinger really say this? He said, what? Does anybody have any questions for the answers I'm already giving? I said, yes. He said, that's exactly what he said before he started every press conference. But that is, I learned that from Kissinger. I've been teaching that for 40 years, and I've been teaching it, on the biggest and the grandest stages there are, with great honor. It never mattered to me what the questions were in this podcast. I want people to know I'm a great PR person. I want people to check out my PR agency. Somehow they're going to get that idea in their head because of the answers that I give, how helpful it can be. And in particular, I know today we want to talk, or I believe talk about, entrepreneurs who are probably not going to have budgets to go out and hire agencies, but you can do it yourself, and I can teach a lot about that.
That goes right into the next question that I want to ask that I'm very keenly interested in. You're good at communications. You're good at public relations. What made you take that jump from knowing that and working that over to teaching and helping others on how to do it?
It's the greatest. I mean, it's an honor to teach people this. And, for me, as a kid, it was the great equalizer. I wasn't Sony. I was Eric Yaverbaum working out of his living room on Capitol Hill at the time. I don't have Sony's money. How do I get the kind of press that Sony gets? Because they got a lot of agencies. And the good news is you can. I was doing it by myself. So, I'll give this story. This happened in 1985. And this is what you want to do with public relations is say, what is your objective? And I would say this in pitch meetings all the time, and they would say, kid, who do you know? When have you ever done this before? And I said to my business partner at the time, this is the first agency that I sold, let's do it ourselves. Let's practice what we preach. Let's do something to demonstrate to potential clients exactly how this can work. So our objective was to get clients. I had 3 at the time. I had the guy who's been a client now for 40 years who brought the wacky wall walker to the United States that has ended up selling over hundreds of millions of wall walkers. When he came to me, he had sold under 1,000. I had the Domino's Pizza local franchisee in Washington, D.C. He had 4 franchises. They were all struggling. He went on to become the most successful franchisee in their history, and that Domino's Pizza became my first national account. And I had a D.C. lobbyist who fired us. That was my first 3 accounts. You never heard of any of them. So in 1985, we looked at the landscape of the media, and we said, what's a story that we can predict with a reasonable degree of certainty is going to get a lot of press, is going to have a shelf life that's longer than a day, that we could be a part of? And in 85, there was a pending Major League Baseball strike. It's ironic because I do a lot of work in sports now. I did nothing in sports then. we see a pending Major League Baseball strike, and we know exactly how that's going to get covered. The press will cover the very wealthy owner's side. They'll cover the almost as wealthy player's side. And then they'll go out and find the fan who's going to complain. We can't relate rich versus rich. We just want to be able to afford the price of a ticket so I can take my family and actually get everybody a hot dog and a soda. That's what we get. We're angry. We knew that the press would cover those three sides: players, owners, fans. And the fans would be just the guy on the street that they would find. So in '85, we formed a National Citizens Action Group. It was called Strike Back. And the premise of the group was all we asked fans to do was, because we knew fans would be angry, send us a letter saying that you will honor our boycott. Our boycott was, and a message to Major League Baseball: for every day you go out on strike, when you come back to play baseball, we're going to go out on strike. Game for game. Send us a letter. Tell us you'll honor our boycott. It doesn't cost anything. USA Today writes the story about what we're doing. I mean, I had all of 10 letters at the time. Ask fans to send us letters, and they do. Bags and bags and bags of mail come, and we call up Peter Uberoff. Peter Uberoff was the commissioner of baseball at the time. We want to meet with Peter. We want to meet with Peter. We want to meet with Peter. Well, we never got through to Peter. He wasn't taking our calls. So we started dropping the bags of mail at his doorstep every single day. And every day when we did that, the press came to see how many, and this is just bags of mail, how many fans were supporting what we were doing. We eventually, as the fever went up, we got invited into the baseball negotiations. Peter Uberoff said when the strike ended that we were one of three reasons that the strike ended so quickly, which was Major League Baseball doing their own version of PR. I don't really believe we were the reason, but Major League Baseball said we were. So if you look in the history books, I was the reason that strike ended so abruptly.
Hey guys, as an entrepreneur, doesn't it seem that everything is getting smarter these days? AI is making its rounds into everything. It's becoming a thing to get smarter, be smarter. And I ask you, what about your shipping? Yeah, that's right. What about your shipping? I mean, your e-commerce business should also get smarter, and it can. I have something that has outgrown your old shipping solutions. It's called ShipStation, and it's the next great step you can take to get your products to your customers. Guys, this is the next step you need. It's a multi-carrier shipping solution, and it integrates seamlessly with whatever platform you sell from. I like that the order management allows direct integration to over 70 of the best-selling channels. That helps give you complete control and insight on all of your shipping orders. And if you ever need to generate discounted shipping labels for your online orders, you'll find it a breeze, as you can find the best rate, print a label, or even batch orders. It's pretty cool. Another wonderful feature is the branding, which gives an exceptional post-purchase experience. As you may know, that creates a more memorable delivery experience for your customers. And one of the nicest features, I think, is that whether you use Amazon, Shopify, or another marketplace, you'll find it easy to create shipping labels for however you ship. Some key features to take note of is that, pay attention, because this is the biggie, it's the fastest, most affordable way to ship products to your customers with discounts up to 89% off UPS, DHL, Express, and USPS rates. Isn't that something? And yes, you can seamlessly integrate with services and selling channels you already use and manage orders on one easy dashboard. Guys, over 130,000 companies have grown their e-commerce business with ShipStation, and 98% of companies that stick with ShipStation for a year become customers for life. And that helps you focus more on what counts, growing your business, and perhaps more free to spend time with the family. A fellow podcaster says it's a game changer for his business too. So let's do this. Lead your e-commerce business into a smarter future with the shipping software that delivers. Switch to ShipStation today. Go to ShipStation.com and use code Tony to sign up for your free 60-day trial. That's ShipStation.com, code Tony. And I'll spell that ShipStation.com, ShipStation.com, code TONY. ShipStation.com, code Tony. And just a quick thank you that I sincerely appreciate you listening to my weekly shows with today's elite entrepreneurs. The Tony DUrso Show is on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Would you please head on over to your favorite place and follow me there? I sincerely appreciate you. And now, back to the chat with Eric, PR for Dummies.
So what's the point? Why? Why do all that? Because I don't care that. I mean, I'm a baseball fan. Don't care nearly enough about baseball to go through all of that to end the strike. For what reason? I knew that every interview I did, Ted Koppel asked me on Nightline, Larry King asked me on Larry King, and I could go through on and on and on about who asked me this question. Why are you doing this, Eric? What's the point? Why? And my answer was, this is what I do for a living. I get my clients on television and radio talk shows. I get them in newspapers and magazines. I'm just using the same causes, the same avenues that I would for any of my clients for this cause that I feel so strongly about. Those clients were 3 clients that I just mentioned that nobody ever heard about. That message, that was my message. I knew I would be asked the question. That message got me 12 clients. It put my agency on the map. The objective wasn't to get press. The objective was to get clients. And that was the message that got the clients. And I've been doing it ever since. I mean, if you Google my name or the name of my agency, you'll see I'm still in the news every single on a very regular basis on purpose. And I'm still messaging in every single solitary interview I do because my objective remains the same, building a practice.
Phenomenal. We're talking about PR for Dummies and smart people too. And this is with Eric Yaverbaum, and you can find him at ericyaverbaum.com. I'll spell that ERICYAVERBAUM.com, ericyaverbaum.com.
And if you can't remember that, because I got the world's worst name for if you want to remember the last names, just Google PR for Dummies. You'll find the author. Then you can go to my website.
There you go. Perfect. That was the answer to the question. No, that was the question to the answer I was going to give, or something like that. I got that confused. I'll work on it. Eric, we are entrepreneurs and business people in the audience. There's some of us that are career-minded. We all are fascinated with PR, communications. So please teach us how we can effectively communicate to the world. We're going to start here. You are working on the 3rd edition of the best-selling, and it's an industry standard book, Public Relations for Dummies. Can you give us a glimpse into what's new for Public Relations for Dummies, and what sort of updates can readers expect?
What's new is everything. I mean, of all the books I've written, this one is, I would say, the most painful, but I wouldn't do it if pain was actually involved. This book, and it's funny because you mentioned the title, because the publishing house, when I was a kid, they wanted me badly to write the book. And they chased me for a year to write this book, mostly because I'm a PR guy who was in the news all the time. They wanted to, I have no idea why. Everybody I compete with should be in the news all the time. I'm not sure why they're not. I've been saying this for 40 years, but nobody seems to be picking up on it. They wanted me. And I didn't want to write the book. About a year after they were trying to get me to write that book, I said to my business partner at the time, the publishing house. I had already written a New York Times bestseller, my first book, which was called Getting Yours. I'm sorry, which was called I'll Get Back to You. Getting Yours was the first New York Times book I promoted for a client. I'll Get Back to You was the first one that I wrote, which is about getting your phone calls returned. And I said to my partner, they're trying, they want me to write this book, and I've been turning them down. And he said, are you crazy? You got to write that book. So when he said it, I realized, got to run a PR agency. Of course I have to write that book. Write the book, feel like it'll be great collateral to send out to, potential clients or new clients who are interested in us. The very first person that I sent it to was so offended. He said, why'd you send this to me? I said, well, I wrote it. He said, oh, I thought you were saying I was a dummy. The thing about PR for Dummies is, and I am writing the 3rd edition right now, and it will come out next year, anybody can do it. You don't need, big giant budgets to be able to do what I've done. And my entire career has been documented. Again, you can't help. All you got to do is Google my name. You'll pretty much see, since Google was, born, anything about my career. Like strike back stories will be hard to find because they were in the 80s. But, what I did to get stem cell legislation or advanced funding for stem cell legislation, that'll be easy for you to find. What I did for tap water, what I did for encouraging people to go offline, or any of the very, very famous, and well-known clients that I've had, well-known brands that I've had. I'm associated with all of them on purpose, but it's the great equalizer. I've been able to fight, administrations. I've been able to fight policies. I've been able to fight public perception. I've been able to sell, everything from widgets to better healthcare and everything in between, because I can generate media exposure. Anybody can do that. You don't need to have a big budget to do it, but you do have to put in the time. It is a laborious profession. What goes on behind the curtain is nothing like what goes on. And what you'll read about me in the press, it all looks really good. What it took to get all of that was a lot of hard work, and it's to this very day, it will always be. I mean, I have the fame and fortune my entire career. I've traipsed in and out of history. It's still hard work. People will forget me tomorrow if we don't put in the time, and so I do. I put in the time to make sure that I stay, out in front and, in the news on a regular basis. But literally, absolutely anybody can do this. And that's what my book's all about. It's what it was. The first and the second edition were required readings in 54 universities in this country. Kids who were taking intro public relations courses, it was required reading. It's still required reading. I don't even know why it's still required reading, because the second edition very out of date. Third edition will be everything about the way the world has changed in information dissemination. Social and digital media have very much changed the world that I grew up in. I mean, I watched Walter Cronkite on the CBS Evening News, and that's the way it was, which is how he ended the news. It's a very, very, very different world now. We get our information from a lot of different resources, and it's very hard to discern between fact and fiction now, which is particularly important, in these challenging times that we have right now, and with the presidential election, upon us, to figure out what are the facts, what's fiction, and where do we get our information from, and how do we get our information. And the information is very fast. It comes at us fast. And our own unique algorithms in digital media and social media tell us what we're already, predisposed to hearing, which is problematic, because you're not hearing both sides anymore. You're hearing the side you want to hear. That's what your own algorithm is. What you read, what you're partial to, you're going to see more of that. So it'll validate your point of view. And in the old days, to steal a quote from Yogi Berra, when you come to a fork in the road, pick. The thing is, when you come to a fork in the road, in the old days, you could evaluate information and then make a decision. What your algorithm is doing on the internet now is pulling you in the direction you're predisposed to going, which is problematic. And everything and I pontificate about this a lot, about the perils of social media, especially for your kids, is don't get used by social media, use it. If you use it, it's very worthwhile. If you get used by it, which is what most people do, it's not. You're going to hear what you want to hear all of the time. And, it's what's caused so much polarization, in the world today, is that we all hear what we want to hear, what we're predisposed to hearing. So I strongly encourage people to always, have a plethora of information resources, so that they can see every side of an issue before they make their own decision.
Eric, I'm looking forward to that book. Do you have any kind of rough guideline when it might come out?
Oh yeah. Well, everything in publishing is it's rough. It should come out in the first quarter of next year.
Okay, good. Now, this book, Public Relations for Dummies, as you mentioned, I'm going to give you the question to the answer you just gave us. It's the guidebook for us entrepreneurs, business owners, but it also helps those who are starting out, who don't quite have a PR team, who are looking for media relations strategy. So I would love to learn some PR tips for entrepreneurs who are just starting out. Basically, anything that can help them that's inexpensive and time efficient.
That's the thing, is you don't need a PR team. Not to sell my own agency out, but you don't need us. You don't need a big PR agency. You just need to put in the time.
Hey, movers and shakers, this is a topic we all love. We grow with quality professionals on our team, right? Think about that a little more. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. I love LinkedIn. They have the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. What this does is it allows you to post your open roles on LinkedIn and easily target and manage qualified candidates. Now, this isn't just another job board. The whole system here on LinkedIn actually helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else. And this includes those who would be perfect for you, but weren't necessarily looking for a new job. And statistically, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other job sites. So that means if you're not posting on LinkedIn, you may be looking in the wrong place. And speaking of stats, get this, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours when using LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. They're constantly finding ways to make the process easier. And 2.5 million small businesses are happily using LinkedIn for their hiring. So please check this out. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Tony. That's linkedin.com/Tony to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. linkedin.com/Tony. And would you please check out my Elite Entrepreneur interviews on your favorite podcast platform, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube? There's a lot of great insights about anything you can think of to help grow your business and learn from the success of others who have been through their hard knocks. They came out as champions. Check it out and play what appeals to you. And now back to the chat with Eric, PR for Dummies.
You know, why was I on the cover of USA Today when I was 24 years old? Why is Time Magazine doing a story about me? Why is Ted Koppel or Larry King or whoever having me? Why? I'm 24 years old. I got no experience. I have a fledgling agency that, for me was just about, I make enough money to pay the bar bill. That was it. Why would they have me? And who was behind all of that? I was behind all of that. Anybody can do this. I'll give you an example. I had a meeting this morning with a client, and there's a presidential debate coming up. I'm not sure when this particular podcast will air, so it may have already happened. I can tell you what's going to happen because of that presidential debate. Politics aside, let's say they actually discuss 6 or 7 issues in any way, shape, or form. The press is going to be looking for expertise in each of those issues, whatever the issue was. Let's just say they talk about healthcare. Who are the healthcare experts who are available to comment on what was debated in the presidential debate that's happening in the future? I know it's happening. I can predict with a reasonable degree of certainty how the story will be covered. How can I be a part of it? You need to look for, in your own unique vertical category, what's happening in the news that you can be a part of. And you have to look forward, because I got to know about what's going to happen tomorrow, always. Like that baseball strike story, I knew how that would be covered and the experts that they would look for. I know that when there's a presidential debate, whatever the issues are, that let's say, I don't know, I'll just guess age will be discussed. If age is discussed, who are the experts who are going to be able to comment on that? Trust me, there'll be 100 of them. Speed to market. Who gets there first? Who has an articulate point of view, and who gets included in those stories? It is the reason that I got included in the baseball strike stories. And look how I've had a whole career that I don't consider working for a living, that I have loved every day because of that.
I hope they talk about podcasting, because maybe I have a chance.
Oh, well, no doubt. I mean, look, to me, and I've been doing podcasts for years now, and I learned this lesson. I was doing a project, it was called Tappening. My partner agency and I took on Tapwater as a client. And we actually had an e-commerce business that sold reusable water bottles. We promoted the virtues of tap water. You could get anything that you wanted on at our website. And we cost the bottled water industry, at least according to Business Week. I think this one was, as opposed to, honestly, and even though the history books say I ended that strike in 85, I don't really believe that I did. I do believe that I caused some real damage to the bottled water industry. And it's the reason that a reusable plastic is now, it's a different type of plastic. So it decomposes, in the earth when it goes into a landfill, instead of just sits there forever. When we started that, and it became a phenomenon, and it was called tappening, and we became du jour in Hollywood. Everybody, we were very fashionable to have our water bottles, and we were on everything for this, and we were a real thorn in the big Coca-Cola, Pepsi, all the big guys. They could not figure out how to fight with us in the press, and there was one day we were Good Morning America's Echo Product of the Year. And I thought, I'm Good Morning America's Echo Product of the Year. Again, my mom, she's going to be so proud. What could be better? And I got a call same day, or actually the day before, from a blogger. His name was Josh Spears. I never heard of him before. And I was like, I'm really busy. And, I'm Good Morning America Product of the Year tomorrow. And one of the appointments that I had that day canceled. So I did the interview with Josh. The very next day, I think I sold 4 water bottles from Good Morning America. I sold tens of thousands from Josh Spears' blog, as blogs were becoming a thing that nobody had ever heard of before. I would say the same thing about podcasts today. I'm floored. I still do national television. I'm still in, national publications. I'm floored by the feedback and the response that I get from podcasts. I love doing them. I do think that they're the wave of the future. And I think you in particular, right place, right time. This is a medium that people are going to come to and look to. It's already happening. I'm not predicting anything that's not already in motion.
True. Now, just earlier, you had said that you don't want to do yourself out of a job, and we all get that, but we really don't need a PR team. And now we're talking about how the world has changed. We're talking about podcasting, and there's so much where kind of almost a little bit more of a drill down on the last question. Where do we go to begin with a low budget? What should we get involved in? What should we do to not everybody can get on the news. Even now with 45 million views, can I be a commenter for the presidential debate? I don't know. I'm not even trying. Maybe I should try. But the point is, where
maybe you should.
Do we do? What's that?
I said, maybe you should. You would be amazed. The audacity of a 24-year-old to think that Larry King or Ted Koppel would actually interview him when I was a kid. The audacity to think that Time Magazine should profile. I tried.
You're right. It's just the mindset. I get that.
But what do you do if you're sitting here watching this podcast right now? What do you do tomorrow? Because you have a startup. My whole life, I didn't know it when I was a kid. I built a big bad agency, a big good agency. I got bought by Wall Street. All my dreams theoretically came true until I realized that, be careful what you wish for philosophy, which, I felt in all of its glory. I didn't realize I was an entrepreneur. I rubbed 2 sticks together and make forest fires. Anybody can do that. And I'm a repeat offender at successes like that. Yes, I have a lot of big bad brands, big good brands on my roster. I've represented, again, Sony, most recognizable name brand in the world. And no disrespect to Sony or IKEA or H&M or Progressive Insurance or all the great brands that I've worked with in my career. What I take the greatest pride and the greatest joy of is the startups in their garages that were working on a shoestring that we managed to, turn into internet search that gets bought by Google, that turns into vitamin water that gets bought by Coca-Cola. Rubbing 2 sticks together, anybody can do it. And using PR and media exposure to do that with to me, has always been the great equalizer. And absolutely anybody can do it. And so you look at today at the landscape. So you say, okay, I'm not getting on Good Morning America tomorrow. By the way, I'm probably not either anymore. But You want to be on podcasts? You know how many podcasts there are out there? There's tens of thousands of great podcasts that literally speak directly to your target market that you ought to try to get yourself on. You have to, here's the deal. While I subtly or not so subtly talk about what I do for a living, what you're interested, besides my books, besides my experience, besides what anybody in the press or my mom says about me, what you wanted me for was what I'm able to do. Can I teach the people who follow you anything? And yes, of course I can. And I'm trying to. And that's the value of me on your particular podcast. Anybody can do that. You need to find the podcast. Just start off by find 20 podcasts that would be that you could provide, that you could be a resource for, and go after those 20. Just start there. Think about what I said about show up where the news is already happening. What is the story going to be tomorrow? Like I told you, we talked about, and again, I don't know when this will air, but I know about tomorrow's story. I know what the stories are going to be for the next 4 months, and just about everybody does also. Can you be involved in any of them? Can you comment on any of them? Can you add your unique expertise to any of them? Podcasts are a great place to start. When I was younger, before I was doing, national television for the baseball strike, I was in the trades, my own PR trades. Who reads the PR trades? Not even my mom. But who reads the PR trades? The people that hire PR agencies. I've never stopped. Any PR trade ever wants, to talk to me, to interview me, to get a quote from me, 100%, I will always be there for them. That's literally the people that hire agencies like mine. That's what they read. That's, if you're in the sport, well, it used to be Sports Illustrated. If you're in the sports and you go to the sports column every day, you want to show up where your target market might be. Like your show is a superb show for me to sell PR for Dummies. You want to buy a great book? We wait till the third edition comes out, but the people who watch your podcast are probably perfect for that particular book. And that book gives when I was a kid, what they would write about me is, and I used to say, my first client was a guy named Matthew Lesko. Matthew Lesko, his first 2 books were literal cut and paste of the catalog of federal domestic assistance, a federal document. They were both New York Times bestsellers. And his third book, Information USA, was the first $20 trade paperback ever to hit the list. I did all this while I was in college. And there was articles about me, and the articles would say, oh, he's such an out-of-the-box thinker. And Matthew would look at me and say, do you even know where the box is? And I had no idea. I didn't even know there was a box. And the irony is every time I write a new edition of PR for Dummies, it becomes the new box that my own industry operates within, and I got to go out of it again. But that, I would say that that's the nature of any industry, any business. You constantly have to be, forward-looking, forward-thinking. You have to show up in tomorrow, today.
I think that's the most brilliant advice, and it's not very expensive. There's hardly any expense to it. Get on podcasts that are relevant to what you do. There's 2+ million podcasters. I've lost count. There's just so many. So it is relatively easy to get on those, and they have big audiences for that niche or niche, however you want to say it. So I think that's really good. Another question to the answer you gave earlier, I'm just being my Italian silliness here, is you've published a book I mentioned earlier, Leadership Secrets of the World's Most Successful CEOs. It's a valuable resource. It's in the classroom today. I want to ask you, because we always are very interested in leaders and leadership, and that goes part and parcel with good public relations. What do you perceive to be are the most important qualities that any leader should possess?
Well, what I learned when I was younger is what people knew me for was crisis. That's what I got paid the big bucks for, was the crises that you will walk into a fire with me. I promise we are walking out of it every single solitary time. People follow my lead. My attitude is contagious. It's just like a smile, just like optimism. It's contagious. I always see my way out of it. And I wrote Leadership Secrets. Every book that I ever wrote, I had an ulterior motive. Leadership Secrets was, I always lamented, why can I not get in the chairman's office? Why is the PR guy never in a board meeting? Why is the PR guy never on a board? Why do I not have audience with the CEO? So, I made it I would say, 25-year objective to study leadership, find out what it took. And, lo and behold, it worked. I interviewed for that particular book, which was my biggest selling book. I interviewed 100 very, very powerful, successful CEOs. Everybody wanted to be in that book just from the title alone. And I asked every one of them the same 4 questions. And I was looking for that secret formula like everybody was. They're all successful. So what they have in common? Nothing. They had nothing in common. Everybody answered the questions differently. The thing about, to me, great leadership is, your people believing in you, your people following you because they believe in you, and your own attitude, which is completely contagious. It is possible to climb tall mountains. It's possible. And I've been doing it every single solitary year in my entire career because I know that I can. And everybody that's following me, they know it's possible because I tell them it's possible. Come on up with me. And we keep doing it. We do the impossible year after year after year because nothing's impossible.
I love it. I love it. Hey guys, are you selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing however you cha-ching. They're the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. So that means from the launch your online shop stage to the first real life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Shopify's there to help you grow. So whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, they're going to help you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Wherever, whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered to help you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. It's 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. So that means you got it. You can sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify. And what I love about Shopify is no matter how big you want to grow, they give you everything that you need to take control and take your business to the next level. I speak to so many people, and Shopify is the winner out there. People love it. It's so cool when everything just works nice and easy and flawlessly, isn't it? And they power 10% of all e-commerce in the US. They are the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, Brooklinen, and millions of entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. And you know why? Because businesses that grow with Shopify. So let's do this. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Tony, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Tony now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Tony. And that's SHOPIFY.com/TONY. And now back to the chat with Eric talking about PR for Dummies. Earlier, we spoke about mentors and you talked about the impact that they've had. And I really love to get this across to our audience over and over because I believe we're all smart. I believe we can all figure everything out, but it takes so long to get there. A mentor can speed that up. I'd like to learn from you, your take. What makes mentorship so important to career growth? Why is it so important? Why is it so valuable? What is your take on that?
Well, I learned it, I would say, one, because of the exposure that I had to, some very, Kissinger was a perfect example, but I was invited to join the Young Presidents Organization when I was younger in New York City. I was very intimidated in the organization when I went in. Everybody, they were all famous, or you knew their last name, or you had their soap, in your shower. William Lauder, Massimo Ferragamo. I mean, I can go on and on. And I went into these meetings very intimidated. Who was I? I was the guy that had the minimum requirement, which I was successful enough to be invited into YPO. Who was my own press exposure was very appealing to them. But I went into these meetings and I sat and I listened to the most successful people in the country, and I learned so much from them. And an organization that I was invited into as a kid, I sat on the board of YPO for many, many years. I was the chairman in New York City for a very long time. New York City was a very prestigious chapter. I got invited to sit on the international board. And that all from the seed of being intimidated in a meeting. And the mentors that I met in those, in that organization were priceless. The advice that I got from them, which wasn't reading it out of a textbook, it wasn't, reading case studies, from Harvard, was from people who actually did it, invaluable. Everybody should have mentors.
Do you think we should get on boards to get mentors? Or hire a company? Where can we go to find someone who we believe's got what it takes to help take us to another level?
Well, that's the challenging part. I mean, YPO gifted it to me. I was in meetings every single month with countless mentors, but my entire career, I would say I've been very lucky, but I don't believe in luck. I think, luck is, where hard work meets opportunity. You got to work hard at that. Networking, it's worth networking. You need to be going to events in your own industry, and you need to meet. There's never going to be a substitute for getting out there and meeting people. And the more that you can network your way up the ladder, the better. And the more people that you can meet who have more experience than you, the better. I mean, it's what I have learned from people who have accomplished significantly more than I ever have or probably will in my career. It has been a priceless education that I couldn't have gotten anywhere else. And I would say networking is and organizations within your own industry are probably a really good place to start.
I love it. Eric, we have just a few minutes, but I want to ask a question that's probably you could write a book about. You're good at crisis management. What's the worst, should I say it, the biggest challenge that you have had, and how did you solve that with PR?
Well, to me, I never looked at it's a matter of perspective. Your entire life, yours, mine, everybody's listening, your whole life is in between your ears. What's your perspective on your day? I don't know. I wake up in the morning, I can't even believe it. It's like, oh my God, I get another one of these. That's pretty lucky. I get to watch the sunrise. I don't take that for granted. I love to watch sunsets. These are all priceless things. That's my perspective on any given day. So, what I always say to people, and I probably learned this, in a lot of fires that I was in, was tell me what your worst day was. I'll tell you why it was your best. That's the day that changed you. That's the day that you learned the most. If you can look at those situations and say, what's this? Life for me is one big silver lining. If you look, if you don't look, you'll never see the silver linings.
Wise and sage. I love it. Thank you so much. Once again, we spoke with Eric Yaverbaum, talking about PR for dummies and smart people. You can find him at ericyaverbaum.com. Eric, I just want to thank you. Such good advice, so much. I'm going to listen to this again and just soak it up. Great points. Very simple things we've heard before, but if we act on them, we can really go much further with public relations. I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been a big fan of yours for a while. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate that so much. And here's a special thank you to those that listened to the end. So thank you very much. And please, would you do me a favor? You know this one. Can you share this with a few friends to help them too? All right. Let's use this and let's help you move on your journey to success. Thanks. And remember, just take action. Success awaits those who persevere and remain steadfast despite the odds. Sow good seeds, do good deeds, and join me on the next episode of the Tony DUrso Show. Hey guys, we all have to take a break now and then to refresh. Well, I wrote a rollicking adventure story with my co-author, and it's called Hymen of Atlantis. Volume 1 is Bitten. The title is because bitten by greed for gold and lust for power made some more ruthless than ever. The Tolucan Times said it's a unique world in the tradition of Tolkien, a tale well told with harrowing chases and a plot full of twists. Now, the fiction story is set in the middle of Earth where you see the 4 island continents on old maps. And here's an image of one of the islands of Atlantis where the Hymen reside. Now, in the world of Hymen Hera in the land of Atlantis, the Hymen possess great powers. Once a powerful race, they captured and dominated every nation and territory on the 4 landmasses of Atlantis until none were left. Go ahead and immerse yourself in a suspenseful, fun read and choose your hero to follow along. The first book is called Bitten, and you can find it on Amazon. Hymen of Atlantis, Bitten.